Good afternoon, everyone. Please allow me to thank the press for being here today. This is a very important press event, and it's exceedingly important that we get a message to the masses about some issues of grave and great concern. Let me start, however, by expressing my condolences and my concerns with what's happening with the Guadalupe flooding. People have lost their lives. This is a crisis. It is something that I believe we will have to address in the near future. I think that, unfortunately, the President of the United States some time ago made it possible, whether he liked it or not, to address these concerns immediately after they occur. You might recall that there was an airplane helicopter collision in Washington, D.C., and immediately thereafter, the President concluded that it had something to do with with equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I didn't think so. There wasn't a scintilla of evidence. But I think that you're going to find that there are going to be people who are going to want to know what happened with the flooding and why so many people have lost their lives and whether it could have been prevented. To this end, I have sent a letter, along with many of my colleagues, to the Chair of Homeland Security. We indicate our concerns about the occurrence and the role that the federal government may have played by and through the President, who has said that he no longer desires to have FEMA take the lead in helping us with these catastrophes. Now, having said that, I want to tell you that this is in part reason why people don't want Al Green in Congress. Because I not only speak truth to power, I speak truth about power. We are about to see another Uvalde-style cover-up as it relates to Kerr County and the flood event. This Uvalde-style cover-up, you might recall, occurred when some 19 babies were murdered at a school, and the governor did very little about it, nothing as it relates to gun safety, and very little to protect children. I speak truth to power, and I believe that while some people would say this is about Al Green and my relationship with the President because I've sought to have him impeached multiple times, this is not true. It is not about Al Green. It's bigger than Al Green. Some people would say this is about politics. It's not about politics. It's bigger than politics. This is about this letter that I have and that I've passed on to members of the press from the Justice Department, where in the Justice Department, in the very last sentence, the bottom line happens to be the last sentence, the Justice Department states, if the state of Texas fails to rectify the racial gerrymandering of Texas 09, that would be right here in Houston, Texas. I represent 09. Texas 18, which does not have a representative currently because of the demise of the late Congressperson Sylvester Turner, former mayor of Houston. And Texas 33, this would be in Dallas area. Mark Veazey happens to represent this district. And then, of course, Texas 29, which is represented by Sylvia Garcia in Houston, Harris County. This letter has triggered quite an uproar, and it has done so because all of these districts happen to be represented by minority people. This letter from the Justice Department would erase a lot of the success that we've had in the state of Texas with having politicians from both parties who represent all of the various segments of our communities. If they succeed with this, there will be no black congressional Democratic representation in Congress. Mark Veazey is a person of African ancestry. I'm a person of African ancestry. The 18th Congressional District would likely elect another person of color. If they succeed, there is likely to be no person of African ancestry in Congress who happens to be a Democrat. Barbara Jordan, as you know, was elected in 1972, took office in 73. That seat has been held by an African American since that time. Barbara Jordan was a great congresswoman, and when she no longer held that position, Mickey Leland was elected. And Mickey Leland had an untimely demise, airplane crash, and then we elected Craig Washington. Craig Washington was defeated, and Sheila Jackson Lee. And thereafter, we had Sylvester Turner. It's a great history, and great elected officials holding that position for the 18th Congressional District. All of this history would indicate that there ought to be some kind of African American representation on the Democratic side in Congress. We're about to see the demise of that representation if this succeeds. There are 40 seats now from Texas, when you include the 2 senators. 40 seats. Not one of 40 would be a Democrat in Congress. This is about more than partisan politics. Here's what it's really about. It's about partisan racism. And that's difficult to have the press carry. I hope that you'll be able to carry those exact words, because if we can't express what it is, we can never truly fight the problem that we have to deal with. It is about racism, and it's about partisan Republican racism, a desire to eliminate black representation, weaken Latino representation in the Congress of the United States of America. My hope is that this message will be carried so that people will understand what we're dealing with. We're dealing with something that, quite frankly, is unconstitutional, but a Justice Department with this memo would lead people to believe that it is okay to eliminate all of the black representation from the Democratic side and somehow conclude that they were there because of discrimination. The notion that blacks and browns cannot work together to have a congressional district is something that I, quite frankly, differ with the Justice Department on. But it's about racism. I have been fighting pretty much since I've been in Congress to maintain the 9th Congressional District. I have had lawsuits after lawsuits that I filed. In fact, I'm involved in a lawsuit right now to protect the 9th Congressional District. I plan to continue to fight to protect the 9th Congressional District, but I'm also going to fight to protect the 18th Congressional District right here in Houston. I'm going to fight to protect the 29th Congressional District right here in Houston. I'm going to fight to protect the Congressional District in Dallas, Texas, the 33rd Congressional District. All of these districts are held by minority people, and at some point we have to band together, all people of goodwill, to protect the right of all voices to be heard in the Congress of the United States of America. These lawsuits that will be filed as a result of this redistricting, if it takes place, will make it very clear, at least one will, the one that I'll be associated with, that this is about racism. I believe others are concurring, and they will make it clear that it's about racism as well. Finally, this. I believe so firmly and so strongly that this is racism, knowing that the Supreme Court seems to have found a way to indicate that if this is all about politics, it is a non-justiciable issue, which means that the Supreme Court wouldn't take it. We know that the Republicans in the House of Representatives will not seek to bring the president under control. And make no mistake about it, this is the president's idea. I've talked to members of the Texas delegation who are not in favor of this. This is the president's ideal, but he's also imposing it on the governor, and the governor is accepting it. He does not have the will to resist the president, and he should. But make no mistake about it, if the Supreme Court won't engage itself in the process, and if the governor buys into what the president wants and the Justice Department proceeds with it, and we don't have Republicans in the House to deal with it, then there's but one remedy left, and that's impeachment. That is the only tool that we have that we can force a vote on in the Congress of the United States of America. I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for this racism, this racist power grab that he is trying to perpetrate upon the people of the state of Texas. I will do it, and if there is not an impeachment brought by way of a vote this time, there is nothing to prevent me from doing it again when there is a more suitable time to get a majority. But it's not about getting a majority as much as it is about letting people know that we're going to fight and use every tool that is available to us. I will use this tool. I will bring articles of impeachment. And if I don't succeed now, I will do it again and again and again, because we cannot allow a president to decide that he's going to eliminate all of the black representation from the Democratic side in the state, and then weaken the Latino representation from that same state. And for those who live outside of the state of Texas, beware. This is not going to end here. This is the beginning. It will reach your state at some point. If they can succeed with this theory of black people and brown people not being able to coalesce and represent each other in Congress, it will continue. It won't end here. This is the beginning. But we have to fight it and stop it now. If you're not prepared to fight, I think you have to be prepared to lose. I am prepared to fight, and I welcome your questions. Yes?
Congressman, one of the focuses in the letter was the mention of the Allen versus Milligan case. And this was at the center of the Galveston County Commissioner's Court redistricting case. Do you see this as necessarily coming out of the Fifth Circuit's decision upholding Galveston County's position that coalition districts are not constitutional?
Well, I think that yes, to a certain extent. But I also know that we still have Baker versus Carr, which is one person, one vote. And we still have a right for people who happen to be minority people to work together and to have a congressional district that becomes an opportunity district, an opportunity for them to have representation in Congress. This may go back to the Supreme Court because I have a lawyer that I've already employed. He's been working with me for some time. I have my demographer that is working with me, and we'll take it back to the Supreme Court because we cannot allow a decision that would permit a white district to exist at the expense of a district that would have people of color to have representation. It really is about whether or not we are going to have this discrimination now perpetrated upon people of color that will result in them not having any representation and further the white representation that we already have. There was another hand. Yes.
Yeah, if this is done, is it anything that can be undone at any point? Or is it permanent?
If it is done?
If the redistricting is done, is it something that at any point can be undone?
Yes. The undone portion of this, as you have put it, would be a lawsuit that we will take all the way to the Supreme Court if we have to. This is not going to go unnoticed. We're not going to simply accept this. First, we're going to fight to prevent it, and if they do it, then we're going to litigate. And at the same time that we're litigating, I'm going to bring articles of impeachment against the president. I'm not going to let the president do this and not lay out the reason why it's being done and have members of Congress vote on this. It's time for us to take a stand. It really is. Do we stand with people of color, minority people in this country to have representation? We'll find out. And those who choose not to stand for minority representation, well, we'll let them deal with it as best as they can. I do stand for minority representation. I stand for everybody being represented. I'm not interested in having the Congress be all minority people, but I also am not interested in minority people being shut out simply because they happen to be who they are. And that's what this plan would do. It would eliminate much minority representation from the state of Texas, 3 black districts, and 1 Latino district, and may go even further. That's what's been announced. Now, I suspect that at some point, there will be someone that will come forward and say, well, we're also going to impact Anglo districts, white districts. Well, they always say that after they put out the real message. President Trump is notorious for saying what he really means, and then later on he'll backtrack and somehow try to convince people that that wasn't really what he meant. Well, I take literally what they've said here, and we're going to fight it. Yes, sir.
Former Congressman Al Green at his rally yesterday had addressed the issue of redistricting in terms of the potential backfiring of such a move, and pointed to his own case where his district lines had been redrawn before he was elected, and that wound up resulting in him beating a Republican incumbent. Do you see that as a possible outcome in this case if the lines are redrawn?
Well, I think that, as they put it on Wall Street, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. This could be one of those times when they can go too far, and it can put other Republicans at risk. And I prognosticate that there will be a lot of very serious congressional political battles. People are not going to accept this lying down. We fought this for many years. You might recall that Jackson Lee and I would one time gerrymandered into the same congressional district, and we had to fight to eliminate this. We just got to be prepared to fight. If we are not prepared to fight, we've got to be prepared to lose. But if we fight, we can win. And we can win by letting people know that we won't stand for this. This letter is not a mandate. It is merely an opinion from one lawyer. And this lawyer's opinion can be challenged in court just as any other lawyer's opinion can be challenged. The Trump administration is turning the Justice Department on its head. It is now trying to use the Justice Department to erase all of the success that we've acquired over the years in integrating the political order in this country. This man is a superb perpetrator of invidious discrimination. And in this case, it is racism. And we've got to be able to say racism, and I hope that the press will allow those words to be carried forth to the community. Because for some reason, the president can say all kinds of ugly things, and they get published. But if we try to give a retort that reveals who he really is, then that is not covered. It's time for the press to cover my side of this, my story about the racism that we're having to suffer and tolerate under this president. We've seen what he's done in bringing people in from South Africa. At the same time, he's barring people from other countries where there are people of color. We've heard him talk about S-hole countries, and he's talking about persons of color when he was saying that. This man perpetrates racism in his policies. This is just another policy laced with racism. It would be easier to say it is racially laced, but when you say that, you weaken the argument. It's racism. Yes, there's a power grab, but it's a racist power grab, and we have to say it. Yes.
What about the timeliness of this letter and suggesting the redistricting? I've heard that it's typical during a census year. Is this a typical time for this to happen?
No, it is not. This is not typical, although in Texas, you can do it. Okay, but you would ordinarily want to wait until you get the latest data so that you can do an accurate assessment. But in Texas, this is the way we perpetrate our racism in Texas. We do it now, quarter? Decade, thank you. Mid-decade. We do it mid-decade in Texas. And in doing that, we don't have the best information available. And also in doing that, we find a way to justify what we may not be able to justify when we get the actual numbers. So I don't think that this is appropriate to do this mid-decade. I think that we have to fight it now, today, tomorrow, all the way to the Supreme Court, and all the way to the floor of the House of Representatives. We cannot allow a mid-decade redistricting, really gerrymandering, to take place without challenging it. And I would also add this about this mid-decade. the president and the governor are very much aware of the timeliness as it relates to this and what's happening with the flooding. This can become the distraction from the investigation that needs to take place as it relates to this flooding of the Uvalde, of the Guadalupe River. The Guadalupe River has taken many lives. I think that the governor was welcoming something like this so that they can use it as a distraction as well. But I won't let it become a distraction because we're going to fight it. And hopefully we'll prevent it from ever taking place in terms of actual lines that we will have to use to get our representation in Congress. But people are questioning the timing. They really are. I was listening to Joe Scarborough this morning. He was questioning, why now? Why at this time? And I think that it can have much to do with the fact that we have this situation with the flooding, and there was a Uvalde cover-up. The governor is notorious for doing what I'm about to call to your attention. After Uvalde, he got all of the officers together, got public officials together, and they all stood together and talked about how great the response had been. Well, later on we found out we had hundreds of people there, and we had children being murdered inside a school. They should have acted more appropriately and more swiftly, but they didn't. Well, that's what he did now with the Guadalupe River. He got all of these elected officials together and had all of them to talk about how great the response has been. Now we're finding that maybe it wasn't so great. We have at least one person who called in, I believe it was a firefighter, indicating that we need to send out a certain code to let people know that there is a problem with this flooding taking place. There are all kinds of things that have happened to indicate that this was not a perfect response, and that perfect response may be linked to the president's failure to maintain FEMA as a significant portion of a response for floods and other natural disasters. The president has weakened FEMA. So we will have the investigation, but the president is here to help with the cover-up. I hope that he'll console the families, but he's here to help with cover-up. And the governor has done this before. This is how he responds quickly to get everybody on board, and everybody now is forced to support each other in maintaining this cover-up of everything went as well as it could have, when we know now that it did not go as well as it should have. And I don't want to talk about this at this time, but the president opened the door to this when he said that the helicopter plane crash was a DEI event. And there wasn't a scintilla of evidence of that being the case. If the president can make his commentary and somehow get that published across the globe, it would seem to me that we can talk about the need for an investigation at this time. And there is a need for investigation.
What about this happening while the 18th district is unrepresented? We have candidates or hopefuls for that seat speaking out to help represent this.
Yes. The 18th Congressional District is not properly represented because the governor placed the election for the 18th, the seat to be filled, in November. It could have been done at an earlier time. If it had been done at an earlier time, it is possible that we could have had the big, ugly bill defeated. It passed by one vote. The 18th Congressional District was not represented, and the governor knew that the margin was close, so he put the election off to November. Well, he's also taking on this issue before the November election because there is no representative for the 18th Congressional District in place. I do believe that all of the persons who are vying for this position are going to fight to maintain an 18th Congressional District that can elect a person of color, given the history of the 18th Congressional District. So yes, timing has to do with the governor seeing the 18th vacant and wanting to cannibalize the 18th Congressional District, feed on it to satiate some of his other concerns to eliminate black representation in the Congress of the United States of America. If there are no additional questions, let me just give these closing comments. I'm a fighter. I'm a liberated Democrat, unbought, unbossed, unafraid. I do not believe that we ought to assume that because we're elected to office, our number one job should be to protect the job that we have. We've got to put these positions at risk to protect the country. The president is allowing our democracy to devolve into an authoritarianism where he is an authoritarian president. I'm going to fight it, and impeachment is one of the methodologies that I will use to fight it. Aside from all of the other things that we will do, I assure you that I'm going to include impeachment as a part of the process, the tools that we will use to fight this authoritarian president. Thank you.